Well, it's really very interesting to talk to you.
We're not up to speed yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And speed.
Well, I'm happy for the opportunity to talk to you after seeing Bladerunner last night. You know, the movie going public has become increasingly sophisticated in the visual values of film, and they really do expect, don't they, a lot in special effects.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Now, does this pose a great pressure when you think of the films like Star Wars, the Star Wars series, and your own film, Alien? Is this a pressure for you to come up with something that is even more spectacular?
Sure, it's equal pressure to come up with a good script. So yeah, it's part and parcel of the job. But I think once you actually decide on it's first things first, and once you get the script that you want to do, and it happens to be in this kind of genre, then it's a matter of interpretation. And I find, rather than pressure, I think it's one of the most interesting parts of preparing the film.
Oh, that is exciting to you,
Oh, yes.
creating these
Yeah,
extraordinary effects.
Yes.
Why is it always raining in the film, and why are there no green spaces or trees or anything?
Well, it's a multinational, huge city. Let's say in 40 years' time, the city of Los Angeles could have, if Mexico City in 20 years' time could have 25 million people in it, which is probably the biggest city in the world by then. In Los Angeles, maybe it's grown to 2 or 3 times the size it is now. And Los Angeles, as it stands now, is a kind of large suburb in a way. Who said it's a city without a kind of center? It'll continue spreading. The high rises will get higher, and the greenery will get less. It's just one of those things. That's the way I think it's going.
You said that Bladerunner wasn't really science fiction, that it's a contemporary film in many ways. Now, what did you mean a contemporary film?
Well, it touches on a near future, on a future which is only 40 years away. So I don't really look on it to that extent as being that futuristic. It's really like doing a film in the 40s, looking at us now in the 80s, and things really haven't changed that much, just enough to be a little spooky. So I don't really regard it as a futuristic film.
You didn't really stress the cause of the pollution that did create the kind of sterile environment and this overcrowded, what do you say?
Multinational.
Megalopolis. Well, this movie should or could possibly make people aware of this vast quantity, the tons of nuclear waste that, for instance, is lying at the bottom of the ocean, etc.
All sorts of things. I mean, overpopulation, just general overkill, which is happening. It's happening now. I mean, I know we're becoming more and more aware of it now, trying to do things about it, and hopefully we will do something about it.
Well, that's what I wondered about your role as a filmmaker. Do you, in fact, address certain social problems instinctively, or do you look for your films as an entertainment maker of movies?
Primarily entertainment. That's why we really begin the film and, I guess, insulate the audience, hopefully, to a certain extent at the front by saying, more or less, once upon a time, in the legend at the front of the film. So hopefully there is a kind of dramatic separation from the audience and from the film at that moment, so then they're quite clearly watching a fabrication, not necessarily a prediction of the future. I hope it's not the future.
No, well, good gracious, we all hope that. But I'm wondering, deep down within that psyche, your psyche, is there a sort of a social awareness or a pessimism?
Yes, I think there is. I think there is. I mean, I do believe that is the way it's going. And unless something really is done about it, it could end up that way. In fact, I modeled the idea originally on, I'd been to one of the cities that left the biggest impression on me. Of all the places I think I've been to was Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is a sort of crowded zone. It's probably, I think, the most crowded zone in the world, isn't it?
Yes.
On a peninsula or island is Kowloon. And it was incredibly impressive in its multi-textures, multinational conglomeration of everything. And it was kind of interesting. I liked it, actually. And it stayed with me for years. I haven't been there for 10 years. It still stayed with me. So when this film came along, I suddenly started to see a city that way.
You did get a strange feeling of being in almost an oriental sort of atmosphere, and I suppose the crowding and texture had
Sure.
to do with that.
It's better than being bleak.
Yes, I guess so.
I guess with the word bleakness comes deserted streets, deserted environment, and you know, I'd rather have the crowded environment, I think.
Are you alarmed by the possibility of genetic engineering?
Mm-hmm.
And does this film reflect any of your apprehension about that, if indeed you are?
No, I mean, out of genetics, I think will obviously become good things and bad things. This is not a warning in any sense of the word. This is purely a dramatic device in the film for the very central, you know, story to exist. The fact that we can, within 40 years, create under laboratory conditions something that is akin to a human being is, I think, probably a possibility.
Well, you see, the reason I'm asking you these questions, based partly on Alien 2, I'm wondering, I'm fascinated, of course, by you as a filmmaker and your mind, and avidly looking for things to read about you that tells me a little bit about yourself. A filmmaker must necessarily reveal a lot of himself.
I
Isn't
think
that
he
true?
does inevitably, and I think the more I do film, the more I realize, like being a journalist, that to a degree you have got a responsibility. Or you ought to have a bit of a sense of responsibility, because people do tend to believe what they're told, and do tend to believe what they're shown.
Well, I hate to believe what I saw last night.
That's why I said once upon a time at the front.
Thank you very much. It was interesting to talk to you.
Thank you.